it was the law that insulted our human dignity that we were fighting against. Why should we feel that we, Asiatics, are better than the blacks, or that the whites were superior to us? There's no such thing. There are good and bad in every group.
We'll go right to the front,
Yes.
so it's less for you to walk, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to, on the onset, introduce our first speaker, and it is no other than Maniben Sita.
Ons soliede goue burger hierdie week op the Golden Years is 87-jarige Maniben Sita. Mani beteken Rubijn en Maniben is inderdaad 'n juweel in haar gemeenskap. Hulle sê kennis is mag, maar Maniben glo dat kennis van 'n mens se geskiedenis 'n mens moet gee. Soos Indië geveg het vir onafhanklikheid deur passiewe weerstand, so het Maniben vir geregtigheid in Suid-Afrika geveg onder die diskriminerende Suid-Afrikaanse regering. Sy dien as 'n inspirasie vir die jonger geslag om voort te gaan, om op te staan vir wat reg is vandag, ongeag ouderdom, gender of ras.
On the day of the protest, the government wanted to stifle it, or not to let the women succeed in their project of showing their demonstration against the past law. And they stopped public transport from Johannesburg and other places for the women to reach Pretoria. But the woman was so clever, they got a hint of it, and they came to the union buildings the night before. Thousands and thousands of them camped on the union building grounds. So the government did not succeed in their plan to stop the women from arriving there. Can you imagine 20,000 women sitting for the whole night on the lawns of the union building? What a courageous deed that was. And that was a turning point in the history of our country, because it educated the world's people as to what was happening in South Africa. Both my mother and father were from India, from a place called Matwad and Buliafaria. The main reason for coming to South Africa was to improve their economic position. My father came as a young boy the first time. He was, I think, 13 years old. He just had our vernacular education in Gujarati in a private home in India, because in the villages they did not have schools.
As 'n jong mens egter was Nana Sita uitgenooi om 'n boekhoukursus te doen onder meneer PJ Wayas in die dorp, en hy het hom voorgestel aan 'n baie belangrike mentor in sy lewe.
He used to attend the meetings that Mr. Gandhi had with the Indian people in the Asiatic Bazaar and in town, and my father also attended those meetings and took notice of everything Mr. Gandhi said in his speeches, and he admired Mr. Gandhi for his unselfishness and the desire to serve his people, and my father tried to emulate Mr. Gandhi's teachings.
Maniben se pa, Nana Sita, was vir generasies lank 'n kampioen vir menseregte en word vandag hooggeag vir die opofferinge wat hy gemaak het vir die daarstelling van 'n demokratiese Suid-Afrika.
Even before my father came, there was racial discrimination by the rulers of this country at the time. You see, they brought indentured labourers to South Africa, and an agreement was made between the government of India, the government of England, and the government of South Africa that if the Indian government allows indentured labour to come here to work on the sugarcane plantations of Natal, the Indian indentured labourers would be treated on an equal footing as the white people. There would be no discrimination against them. And that discrimination started through jealousy. When people's indentured period ended, then they started doing business. And later the government allowed the merchant class to come to South Africa. And then there was competition, so the white business people felt that it was a threat to them. Then they kept on making this law and this condition and that condition to prevent Indians from progressing.
Die Suid-Afrikaanse regering het Wet 3 van 1885 deurgevoer wat hulle gemagtig het om te bepaal waar Asiate kon bly. Dit het geboorte gegee aan die Asiatic Bazaar in Pretoria. Dit was hier waar Nana Sita sy boekhouvaardighede gebruik het om sy vader se bedryf as algemene handelaar voort te sit.
When my father was, I think, 24 years old, he went to India. And then he got married to my mother and brought her with him when he came back. She must have been excited. Her family was in India at the time. But there was nothing to fear because my father was very fair to everybody, to his relatives, to us children, to my mother. I was born in the Asiatic Bazaar in Pretoria. 1926. We were 7 children in the family. There was a lot of love between the family members. It was a simple life but a very enjoyable life because our yard was very big. Most of my father's education came from reading. He used to read vociferously. As an adult, when he made speeches, people would think he was a university graduate. He educated himself. I just started school in my starting year. I was 6 only at the time. At the end of the year, they had a prize-giving ceremony. And they invited certain public people to speak. My father was one of the speakers at that meeting. And when he used the plural of children and child, he used children with a S. So when I got home in the afternoon, I said to my father, you know, you made a mistake. The singular is child and the plural is children. It isn't children's. And my father had such a good laugh, thinking as a 6-year-old I was finding his mistake already. I'm just taking out the vegetables for making salad. And at the same time, I'm going to make some compost material. We are vegetarians and there's always vegetable offcuts. Now instead of wasting it, we feel if we can put it back in the ground, it enriches the soil and your crops grow better. I took a keen interest in gardening during my teenage years. All the beauty in the flowers and the vegetables attracted my attention. And the more you are with nature, the more you enjoy life. Teenagers should have general knowledge of, a little general knowledge of everything in life. It makes life more interesting. In Indian homes, I would say, parents didn't believe in giving too much education to their girls when I was growing up. My father treated the girls and the boys on an equal footing in every way, giving education. My father was a very broad-minded person because he read all these books and he followed the teachings of the great leaders. Whenever something happened in India, my father would talk about it. And it was an education to us. We were taught that we must respect the human dignity of every person, which wasn't being done. For example, the whites would call black men boy, which wasn't right. A boy is a growing person, not an adult. It's insulting. What we admired about our Indian leaders, whatever fight they put up, they did it non-violently.
Die Suid-Afrikaanse passiewe weerstandsveldtog, wat in 1946 geloods was om teen die ghetto-wet te protesteer, het inspirasie geput uit die suksesvolle stryd wat Indië gevoer het. Hierdie land het onafhanklikheid in die volgende jaar verkry.
5 members of our family took part in the passive resistance campaign. So you can see from our reading and listening to my father and talking generally about politics that we were alert to what was happening. I got busy working in the Asiatic Bazaar to educate our womenfolk. Other girls were not politically very conscious because they were not educated in the same way. We talked to them about the injustice, about the laws, and that they wanted to restrict our movement and they wanted to kill our businesses.
In 'n poging om toegang tot sentrale areas van stede na werksure te beperk, was 'n aandklokreël ingestel vir alle rassegroeperinge, behalwe vir wit Suid-Afrikaners.
Mahatma Gandhi's talking to the people was, or educating the people, you cannot leave half the population out of a national struggle and make a success of it. We all went down to Durban to break the curfew regulation and we were arrested. And we formed a batch of 10 women that went to prison. They didn't give us books to read. There were no newspapers. Those days there were no TVs. You just had to live with your own imagination. We only stayed in prison for 3 weeks because we got 1 week's remission for good behavior. And then we were released. When we came out, the community was very happy. They considered us heroines. My father was very proud because he was all for the passive resistance. I had no opposition in the house, nor did I have opposition outside. It was all free, complete freedom to do what I liked.
Maniben was maar net 19 jaar oud toe sy die eerste keer gearresteer was. Gedurende die struggeljare was sy 4 keer opgesluit en haar pa, oom en broers vele kere. Maniben en ander vroue het die Indian Women's Congress begin om hulle manne te ondersteun in die struggle wat voortgegaan het om te groei. In 1956 het die groepsgebiede wet diskriminasie en segregasie deeglik in Suid-Afrika gevestig. Maniben se familie was geforseer om te trek na Lodium waar sy vandag nog bly.
Hello, Mr. Ali. Come in.
That's a beautiful bunch of flowers. What work did you do to receive all this?
I received these flowers at the women's meeting on Saturday to congratulate me on my sacrifices.
And I'm really proud of you, Maniben.
Thank you.
You've gone through a lot of struggles, a lot of hardship, and here today you are standing right next to me.
Thank you.
I'm not only your neighbor, I'm like your little brother.
Thank you, Mr. Ali.
Right. Maniben, what about this award?
On this side, it says Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha Award,
Right.
presented to Maniben Nana Sita on the 9th of October 2011. On this side, the award says, in recognition of her uncompromising, courageous and outstanding demonstration against the Group Areas Act in particular and apartheid oppression in general.
Maniben, it's good to see human in action, because without human, this world will not turn around. Human really know what is right and wrong in life. And it's nice to hear you say what the human are doing in this country.
Thank you so much.
Behalwe die politiek, het haar pa ook 'n ander filosofie aan haar oorgedra.
According to our philosophy, they say, the less violence you indulge in, the better for your spiritual growth. That is why we like to be vegetarian. Our karma is formed by the way we behave and what we eat. And the animals also have a karma that they got to live out. But by killing them, we interfere with their karma. The earth provides enough food for human beings to exist on. So there is no need to exercise violence against animals. My father liked the principle so much, he took a vow saying he will never touch meat again. And from the age of 15 till he died at the age of 71, he never touched meat again. And he never drank in his life, and he never smoked in his life, and he always thought of doing good to others. It is better to eat fruit in the morning because there isn't other food in your tummy to clash with it. I wouldn't say I'm a politician. I take more interest in philosophy and in religion. Politics is part of my life, but it's not the whole of it. There are many avenues that make life more interesting. And my study of yoga keeps me in touch with philosophy. Yoga exercises are done to keep the body fit so that you can enjoy better health. It strengthens your muscles. It is to get more suppleness in your body. The breathing exercise, it purifies your nervous system and makes you feel calmer. When you breathe rhythmically, you are taking in air and you get more oxygen into your system. And what I like about yoga is that it strengthens your willpower. As your body improves and you get stronger, your willpower also gets stronger. And I believe that the only science that's going to solve mankind's problems is going to be the science of yoga. Yoga teaches you your worth and value as a human being.
Maniben, namaste Maniben. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just going through some photographs because I'm writing a book and I want to see which pictures will be suitable to put in the book.
Lovely, Maniben. We need that. Maniben, I remember this.
Yeah, it was on all the poles, you know,
That's
in a
right.
bigger size. It was the photo that was taken when the election campaign was on.
That's right. I remember that very well.
This one was on 27th April 1994, Freedom Day. It was the first time in our lives that we had the right to vote for the government of this country.
This is a real good memory. Maniben, how did you feel after voting?
Oh, I felt nice. I felt like a citizen, free man. This was when the 150 years of the coming of the indentured Indians from India, then the woman stood at the entrance of Laudium to tell people they mustn't forget their roots. This was written for Mother's Day. When I think of the contribution that members of my family made in the political life of our country, much of the credit must be given to my mother. If it was not for her hard work in the house and in our shop, our work would not have been possible. Indirectly, she made the greatest contribution of us all.
Absolutely.
Without her help, we would have been nowhere.
Of course. She was the center, the pillar.
You see, here also they say my mother made the greatest contribution of us all.
And you wrote this article. You wrote the article.
Yeah.
Maniben, we look forward to your book.
Yeah.
So it's very important now for us to learn from people like you.
Die idee van 'n verenigde Suid-Afrika was belangrik vir Maniben, soos bewys in die vele toesprake wat sy gelewer het.
I said, we want to say to the white government of South Africa, keep your tricameral parliament, keep your new constitution. We do not want it. We do not want them. We want one parliament for one people, for one country. That's how I ended my speech.
Wonderful.
So we can be proud of those brave women. And our women today are well educated. They have the courage. All they need is they must study their past history. And whenever the need arises to show their opposition to injustice in this country, they must be ready to do so. Thank you.
As jy betrokke by ons wil raak en jou stories wil deel, moet jy asseblief 'n e-pos stuur aan thegoldenyears@sabc.co.za. Jy kan ook kommentaar lewer op ons Facebookblad, The Golden Years op SABC2, of tweet @goldenyearssabc2.